Yeah. So we were just talking about so many good pieces about being in relationship, and you remember that original inquiry around like what how mindfulness is showing up for you now as you're working with Alaiyo, as you're in your own life, in this stage of your journey in your early 20s, the early 20s. What is mindfulness? How does it show up in your relationship at work and in your life?
So for me, I think I did pick up a little bit of what my mom was saying. And so for me, that translates into compassion. Sometimes, okay, you can't really hear me if my phone's like that, so do like this.
Oh no, we could, baby.
Okay.
Because now you're sideways.
Oh, okay. Well, okay.
Yeah, and we can hear
Oh,
you. You're good on the audio.
so yeah, so for me, that just looks like compassion. I think that my mom and I have two very different personalities, and I'm actually into astrology, so that's part of my mindful practice. Is that for the people
Mm.
that I care about, and I spend lots of time with, I do look into their chart just to get a better understanding. And with my mom specifically, we have the same the same moon sign, which is an Aries moon. And so if you know anything about an Aries moon, sometimes in the heat of the moment, it can be hot. it can be, it can be more than we both want. And so I think over time, what we've learned to do is just draw back and then like circle back to like whatever the moment was and talk about it. And I think that foundation was built long before Alaiyo came into the picture. Like I could tell my mom how I felt. I could tell my mom what I was going through, what I was experiencing way before we even got into Alaiyo. And so from there, I think that built a great foundation for when we run into challenges, or when we have experiences that we really need to talk out, we're able to do that, and we're able to see each other and be present with each other for how we feel. And I think that that's really valuable because, like my mom was saying, we're all making it up. Our perception is all individual. And so if you just decide how somebody else is behaving towards you or acting towards you on let's say, any given Monday, it might have nothing to do with you. It might have nothing to do with their interaction with you. They could have gone through something previous, but if you just decide to react to them, as opposed to responding and being like, hey, are you okay? Like, are you going through something? Do you need five? Or, like, do you need something from me? Can I help you? I think that makes for a really great, not only mother-daughter relationship, but a business relationship, because we do spend so much time together. So, yeah.
Mm.
And I want to this next thing I'm going to talk about because I'm super proud of. I'm going to talk about it because I spoke it into existence, and I'm going to talk about it because it was difficult. So because we spend so much time together, Story decided that she was going to not go to college and work for Alaiyo full-time when she was in high school. I was delighted. I didn't spend one moment worrying about it. I knew exactly the outcome of that, and I knew it would be extraordinary for both her and me. So in that sort of energetic space, we were good. I was like, oh, this is about to be lit. But then we ran into Story was working at Alaiyo full time, and she was living at home full time. It was like, this is a lot.
It's a lot.
Because when you ask God for something, when you hold space for something, you have to make room for the fact that that's going to be a different experience. More is also a different experience.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I was like, well, it's getting to be two real grown people in here. And that's real. That's true. And I want us to continue to be and bloom into two real separate grown people. And I knew, because this is my home, I knew that some part of my personality and my grown person personality was not working well with her grown person personality, which is not mine. Like she said, it's not mine. I am fascinated by her. sometimes I'm so fascinated by her because I never would have thought. Like there's some things I learned about story and I experienced with her, and I'm like, wow, bro. And I
Yeah,
think it's
I know the feeling.
because it's like thinking you're planting a rose, a red rose, and then it starts to grow, and you see all of the intricacies of the ways that it's growing, and then when it blooms, it's a little bit different color than you thought. You could be
Yep, it might not be a rose.
you could be disappointed because it wasn't what you thought, or you could be fascinated.
That's right.
And it could become this thing.
Yeah.
And so at some point I was like, okay, we have to do something. We have to do something because I was starting to get scared. I was starting to get scared because I know me. I'm not going to keep doing static. It's not in my it's not in my realm of possibility. And I thought, oh, I wonder if this isn't going to work. And I would get sad and I would get frustrated and I would, the mama in me was like, how do you get this child to do X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, what are you looking for here? Are you looking to be a mother? Are you looking for a child? Are you looking for an employee? Are you looking? And I think that was a thing. Early on that was a thing. And so I was like, okay, so we can either work together or live together.
Can be both.
It just didn't feel like it could. I mean, like I had looked, I had tried. I think she certainly worked for a year because you didn't move out till you were 19, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she said,
and were you feeling the same way, Story? Were you feeling like the edges in the same way, or like were you noticing that too?
I was 18, 19 years old. Like I even think about the things that I'm learning through and growing through now, and I think that when you are that age, especially with the kind of social upbringing I had, I definitely was in my own. Like, I definitely was like, no, like what I think is what I think. And, I'm,
Gotcha.
if you guys, again, are into astrology, I'm a Taurus. And so, I think that, so much of my understanding in the world gives me stability. And so I think that that's where the misunderstanding of stubbornness is. Like, no, I just feel safe here. And so I think that a lot of our arguments would come from my disposition or my place in the world as an 18-year-old and feeling safe there and feeling like, no, this is my position because this is true, like indefinitely, in my mind at the time.
So amazing.
And so,
yes. Yeah. I mean, so valuable. I'm going to use your term, Story. This is so valuable. Yeah.
So I definitely thought some things that were loosely seated and planted in my understanding. I thought that they were very concrete. And so I think that that created challenge, especially when there's a 25-year difference. Like my mom is like, okay, so no, those things are not a thing. Like, and I'm just like, but these are the things that
they are, because I'm very sure they are.
I'm sure they are, because these are the things that make me feel safe. So I'm not really sure that I'm going to turn from those just yet. And so I think over time I just had to learn. And thankfully, I think that everything happens in divine order, because from there we were able to grow this kind of trust for, this is how I feel, this is how you feel. Like I was saying before, let's talk about it and let's come to a common place. And I don't think that happened immediately. And so
of course not. Yeah.
And so, as we were growing that kind of trust in our communication, we did have to, give each other some time to, grow in different spaces. My mom was able to live in her home, without kids for the first time in her life. And I was able to live in an apartment on my own for the first time in my life. And I think from there, I learned some new things about being an adult and about being independent in a way that I thought I was independent living with
Yeah.
my mom.
Yeah. And because some things you can't, you're not going to get that at home, no matter how home has elements of independence or whatever. So I love what you're saying, Story, about how mindfulness is in a lot of like what you're noticing about
Oh, yeah.
yourself, like just the shifts in yourself. Because I mean, you sound similar to Marley, who's 18, when you say like, yeah, that's just what makes me safe. So I'm going to kind of hold this ground because essentially that's what I need to do right now. Like that is such a word,
And
such a word.
what's important about that for the mothers, because it can be frustrating, because you can see, like, mother, we know,
Right.
you don't want to argue with no whole grown person who got to learn.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like there was a story, the sort of idea when I was coming up, and it certainly applies, and it's more applicable when you get older. Like when you get older and you've bumped your head enough times, somebody tell you something, you're like, okay, I'm good. Not a lot though. Not a lot, but sometimes. So this idea that we're acting like these humans who came here for this exploration that is living is going to just take these things we give them immediately and implement them and never turn back. I promise you, if your children are doing that, they're probably also faking.
Exactly. They fronting and you just not getting it. Like this is the thing.
That's scary to me.
You can't build trust on that.
As scary as some of the things have been that Story has done, that she has told me, as scary as they have felt on the inside of me, I could do two things. I can reflect back to when I was her age and quit acting like I didn't do that.
Option one. Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
Or I could decide, well, what would she have to work with if she didn't have things to work with? And I can trust God. I can mind my business. I can follow my breathing. I can use my tech to save my life, to ground me while Story is getting a life.
So this will be the part where when I'm doing the post-production on this, because this conversation is a part of a 2-part series on a word that my friend Aisha, who's in the other discussion, calls the mother body. The idea of the mother body not being something you put on, like I'm a mom, I mean, I got to do this, I can't do this, I can't do that. But it's actually something you go through. It has all these different stages and all these different things. And much of it is about knowing your place. So much of it is about knowing your place. What thing are you praying for? Are you praying that they follow what you think they should do? Or are you praying for yourself, for your own groundedness around what they might need to do that you may not understand? That's a mother body shift when you don't need them to be anything but what they are, not saying it's easy all the time, not saying you're going to get it or it's going to feel great. But what it is not only an option, but as you said, Josiah, like, so necessary.
Yeah. Because if not, I mean, like, who are we? Who are you? I mean, I'm talking like look in the mirror when I'm asking this question. Who are you that you feel like you should be the one to direct an additional life?
Right. Come here. Look at me.
With yours. And I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job with mine, but honey, listen, all the energy and strength and fortitude and perseverance and stumbling it took.
Right. And I'm still on the path because I'm still alive.
I can share what happened, but this idea that I could navigate beautifully a whole nother being into what they would then be left with considering as happiness, literally there's no math.
Yeah. Out of place.
So we're left with being present with what is and loving people.
Yes. And doing the thing like what Story said, it's like checking in with like, what can I do, for you or for me in the moment? It depends. Like what do I actually need to do? And I love that one of the threads that I hear too here is around resistance. And I have this phrase that dropped into me some years back about resistance being the roadmap, especially when it comes to my mother work. Cause it's like, their resistance or my resistance to some shit they doing is really always direction. It is always, It's not just information for me, it's direction, because the idea that their resistance is a roadmap, it's always giving me an opportunity to ask a question. Well, what's going on? Why am I, oh, it's going to take me in a certain direction away from my shouldas. How come you not?
Yeah.
And my expectation, right? So much of this I hear in that, like when you said, I'm a Taurus. So when I stand in this, it's like resistance, what? That's like part of my middle name. It's such a powerful, I think resistance is a type of magic, like anger.
Yeah.
And so this morning when I can't see Story. I mean,
Same, yeah.
no.
But we can hear her because I can hear her
Okay,
voice
good,
coming
okay.
in. Yeah.
This morning I was getting ready in the kitchen, and I left my phone upstairs because I'm working with being in relationship with myself, like my interior intelligence, my indwelling intelligence. I'm looking for a closer relationship and more of a dance than a technical one. Like as soon as I hear something, I write it down. So
Yep.
I'm cultivating a kind of relationship that lets us talk and then lets me trust that I will remember. So that's sort of where I am, some of the tech that I'm working with right now.
Yep.
And this morning when I was making a cacao. I've been doing cacao ceremonies to open my
Oh, yes.
and that's also my coffee substitute. So again, that's a bit of spiritual tech. That I
Yep.
can open my heart, I can save my adrenal system, and I can support myself in my relationships. Like I'm doing all the things with
Yes.
cacao. So
Yep.
I heard the spirit.
Because everything can be practiced.
Because everything is practice.
Yeah.
So I heard the spirit say to me, breathing is the least form of resistance. It's the least form of resistance. Like you have to breathe if you want flow. If you want flow, you have to breathe. Resistance is going to get you nowhere. Nowhere.
That's right.
This idea that I want what's happening to not be happening is going to get you nowhere. If you breathe, you show up as the highest version of you've got in hand currently.
Yep.
And then from there, that version of you can speak to you, through you, and for you, depending on how much relationship you are into it.
Yep. It wants to. That's its design. It can't not. Yeah.
It wants to help you. But if you're down here and you're just staticky and you're just drama and you're just regurgitating and you're not breathing, you've got no information. If you've got information, it's old and outdated. So if you're talking to a child, they're like, what is this man talking about?
Yeah, because they sense that from a mile away. Yeah.
You got to be here. You really got to be here, because what's happening here is what's happening. And too much of parenting has been old programming pulled forward.
That's right. Like dragged forward with ideas that are not even rooted in now. It's like you have an idea of who this person should be, in part because of who you are not.
Yeah. Ooh.
That can never. Yeah. I'm the same. Yeah. And, looking right over here, I mean, so much of my journey from schoolishness is around that, which is why this work, you were like, I'm so glad to see you still doing the work. I just live my life out loud. Like I really this is all of it. Yeah. Everything I'm experiencing is what I share and do and talk about and write about, because that's all I know. Like, and that's where I am.
You're like the Black Frida Kahlo. Like, I take the subject that I know the best.
You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. That's what I'm for. So I love being in conversation with you, Josiah, in particular in this moment, because we have that in common. Like the things that we really carried us to a space where it's like, oh, I know I'm somewhere. Like I'm very clear. I'm clear that I'm somewhere. And like you, there's a part of that clarity comes with this compulsion to have it in the archives, to record it, to share it, to chronicle. Like it's just a part of what comes with that, I think. And it's really interesting because you also produce a physical thing as another form of an archiving and a carrying with and a remembering and a noticing. And so I want to talk a little bit as we close out about what got you to this point. Like give us the kind of short story of how you got to Alaiyo, from writing and yeah.
God promises us things. God promises us things when we're really, really, really small. And I think that God promises us things in the form of curiosities. So the things that we're curious about when we are very young, those are promises that we can fulfill within ourselves by following our curiosity. And Alaiyo really is the right now gift from the Creator for where I am right now in my life, based on my curiosities. I used to be curious about aura, about how you could see color around people. I used to be curious about energy and what it means that somebody could read minds. Like the things that used to make me curious as a child are part of my life in total right now. And because I'm now writing this work and looking at here and looking at how I got here, I am literally seeing that the little girl who was pushed up to the back of my bunk bed with the sheet around it so nobody could come in. Like I was in the lab in these books, in these worlds. I was in the lab seeing how it all works. And then I lived. But these things never left me. These inputs never left me. And some other inputs got put in there.
Yeah.
And then at some point, it was my job to sort through these things. And here at Alaiyo, we really make a technology that allows people to select what they want to work with, what they want to pay attention to, secure that around their waist, and create that vibration around them so that they can pay attention. And so it is a very ceremonial, ritualistic kind of practice if you let it be, if you know what it is. I think the thing that makes Alaiyo unique is that I know what it is.
Yeah.
Full scope. I know what it is. And I knew what it was as soon as the young lady who tied one on me. Because it literally changed me instantly. And at the time, I had been working with spiritual tech already, so I knew how it vibrated.
Right. You noticed it right away. You knew what it was.
I didn't need to go online and research what waist beads were, because whatever that answer was going to be, it had nothing to do with me. Now.
And what you already knew.
Yes, information is powerful and information is necessary. We're all here at different levels. And so I'm so grateful that there's so much more information out there with waist beads. But again, just like you cannot get well by reading a book about wellness. You cannot do that. You have to be in the experience. And a waist bead is in the experience of being present with you. When I first got tied and that shift happened for me, I literally was tied. The second person that I knew personally that had gotten tied was my daughter. I was like, oh, because if this makes you know, she needs to know. And she needs to know from inside of her, because I know what kids do with information from their parents. They don't.
That's right. They
don't care what you say. Because most of the time you're bringing old information to them.
And you don't act like you care what they say. So if y'all are not actually in, that's just some natural things happening. Yeah.
So I'm tied a waist bead around story. She was 13 the first time. If I had known, I tell people all the time, if I had known about a waist bead when she was born, I would have tied one on her when she was born, which is, of course, what happens in a lot of ancient African cultures. When babies are born, they tie waist beads on them for various and sundry reasons. I'm telling you, I would tie a waist bead on a brand new baby so I can do some of the traditional things, like watch their growth. So I could imbue a kind of energy, supportive energy around them. But also this being in this vehicle is at all times aware that they're in this vehicle, that they don't leave themselves all the time. Because
Yeah.
this is what's happening. This is what has happened. We have left ourselves, and we're on the side of the road somewhere.
Yeah, trying to find something that is actually right
Right,
here.
right.
Look at this. Look how the story comes back. It's like you leave, quote unquote, but you come back. Technically, you leave, but you come back at the right time because
Yeah.
we can go right back now to what you were saying at the top of this story about how you spend a lot of time with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even feel that need, that you have the grounding is there. And then you have the tools, the spiritual tech, the practices for the doing the things you do in the world, like with waist beads or making beats or some of the, the things that are of interest to you. So it's like having the idea of having a thing. Can we close out, as we close out, I should say, can you tell us a little bit about the practice of waist beads for you as a type of spiritual tech? Like, how do you see that is effective for people as a type of tech, or you?
So for me,
And hopefully you can hear and see.
yeah, can you guys hear me? Can you hear
Yeah.
me? Oh, you can hear me? Okay. So for me, wearing waist beads has opened my eyes to the fact that I will sometimes be an emotional eater. And so what happens is that
Uh-oh.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can't hear you. Yeah,
Okay.
can
Yeah,
you
now it's
move
low.
your phone somewhere else slightly?
Is it
Yeah, because
okay?
this feels like such that's good. I could hear you then.
You can hear me now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. So yeah, what I realized with waist beads is that so much of what I used to do was eat emotionally. And so what it forced me to do and what it drew me to do is that when I'm overthinking and when I just want to eat something or when I just want to order something or go out to eat, I do have to rethink it. Or even if I'm at the table eating something and I'm getting ready to overeat, I have to pause and really look at what I'm trying to cover up with food. And so that has been a really interesting process for me. And I
Wow.
don't think I would have ever learned that had I not started wearing waist beads. Um, I even
Wow.
I would have been significantly bigger, honestly, I, if I wasn't wearing waist beads, because so much of my comfort comes from food. And I don't think that that's the way that you should be eating food. And so I think that so much of my mindful journey and my presence here on earth is like my connection to food and what that does for me and why I just need to eat food more so like on a nutritional basis rather than
Mm-hmm.
emotional basis, because the emotions can get intense. Like even
Oh, yes. And they will continue to. Yes.
even consume,
Yeah.
I literally tried to do no spending for a year, and I was 3 months in and I was like, I don't think I can afford, like, I think that I'm just gonna go buy something, because clearly what I need to look at is the fact that consuming, whether it be food, whether it be music,
Right.
is a very emotional experience, not only for me, but I'm sure for so many others. And so it also
Yeah.
opened my eyes to a lot of different levels and different ways that we operate in society. And so, yeah, it definitely has been like a deep spiritual experience with my connection to food, because
Yeah.
it is that,
And
clearly.
that's a huge one. That's a huge one for a lot of us. And as I hear you talking, it feels like it's not for each of us just noticing what that physical thing can do for us. Not everybody is adverse to being bigger. However, what I hear the main thing here is about the mindlessness or the covering up or the investigation of like, what is this about? What am I telling a story that is being translated through this thing with food that is not, this doesn't actually serve it? What do I actually need to be doing instead of buying something to eat or buying something to put in my place or whatever the thing is? So that just feels like such a powerful element of this whole idea of what it means to be in mindful relationship with like ourself and our habits and our patterns.
And
Yeah.
I want to say, because I do this work and I come across men and women, I come across people in various stages of relationship with the truth about who they are. And the world has done an interesting thing, because Story had this beautiful thing. What did you say? Story, we were talking on the phone yesterday, and Story said, how could this thing that is saving me also be the thing that is drowning me? It was so profound.
And I wasn't even talking about me specifically. I have a very deep interest in music, and specifically, that has grown into the interest in the music industry, because I'm never interested in anything on the surface, because I know that nothing is just surface. And so whenever I become interested in something, I'm interested in the entire world of it. When I look into the music industry, what I'm realizing, specifically with rap, which is really unfortunate because so many Black people are involved in rap culture, but what's happening is that they, sometimes these people get into deals and they don't make too much money within the deal, but they make money off of touring. But rap culture appearance is and it's so much of the reason that you get booked for shows, and it's so much of the reason that you get booked for clubs and different appearances and things like that. And so what happens is that rappers have to invest in so much material, whether it be clothing or jewelry.
Yep.
Things
Look the part. Yep.
They only have this much money. So if I take money and I invest it all into materials, but that's putting me in more debt. So the only thing that's keeping me going, I was like, that's crazy how the thing
that is
is the same thing that's keeping you above water. It's insane.
And so I see that here. I see that here, and I see that in the culture. So the reason why that felt relevant and really poignant to me is because we do a thing around confidence and self-love and embracing who you are and where you are. And if we're not careful to be honest and balanced, what happens is we hide there. We hide there in the language of self-love, and we hide there in the surface of treating yourself well, and then we die there.
Right. We look the part and die there.
There. In that same place that was designed to save us. And so we have to be balanced. 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 And this practice is a practice of seeing what's true, loving what's true, and seeing what's true, and then knowing that we are an unfolding thing, that we don't have to stay nowhere. Anything that doesn't change, move, is dead.
Yeah.
And so making sure that while we are newly standing up inside of ourselves and becoming in embrace of our bodies and our color and our hair, and we're out here showing the world how beautiful we are, make sure that it matches on the inside. Because
the harmony,
work to do, not just this surface work.
That's right.
Because that's attractive.
The whole world of the thing.
The whole thing has to be done. It's an inside out game. So if we aren't doing the inside part, if we're refusing the inside part, we haven't done it. And it comes back. I mean, that's the thing. And she could tell you at 21, and you could tell me at 45, and I could tell you at 47, and my client who's 87 could tell you, act like you don't see
it. Right. Yep. Yep.
We do
the patterns.
We do this work for all those reasons.
Yes, because pattern recognition is also a part of spiritual tech, right? Yeah. Like very much so. So where do we go if we don't know and we're like, oh my gosh, I want to be part of this. I want to see what's available. I want to make sure when I'm in Cali, I can go. Tell us where to find you.
We are in Canoga Park, California, our studio. So you can contact me via Instagram, or our website is alaiyo.net. You can make an appointment to come in and see us. If you're not in California, don't plan to be in California, you can order this particular tech. We also sell the new Fast Girls on the website. We have silent meditation retreats. Like we offer this tech through Alaiyo, and all of it you can see at alaiyo.net. I'm working on my communication with the world skills and skills. So at some point there'll be a newsletter that goes out.
Yes, take your time, because we know you're doing what you're doing, because we need it all.
And listen,
Yeah.
I'm also working with my old brain. It's like, I don't want another email. So I'm asking people with emails.
I closed my newsletter in January of this year because I was like, I can't do it. I'm sorry, guys. Not sorry. Peace. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm finding the balance because I know that the way we've been doing business is absolutely not the way business has to be done.
That's all empire things. Yes, we need to have that conversation, because that's a huge part of how I got to my here.
Yes.
Is absolutely based on the transition of doing business over into a very different thing.
Yeah.
A very different thing. So, Story, Josiah, thank you all so much for your presence, for your tech, for the exposure to a little bit of your world and your story and your why. Really appreciative of it. And y'all, if you have not read the new Fast Girls, please go do that. That is such a meditation, such a ceremony on its own. Josiah, it's a pleasure to see you now, sis. It's just beautiful.
This is wild. I am so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me, for having us. I'm so grateful to Story for being here and doing the work that it takes to be where she is. Because it reflects beautifully on me. I mean, that really is the truth. But it also reflects beautifully on everything, like how the thing works. Like we have evidence of how the thing works. And I'm super
As am I. Thank you both. More soon. Much love. Thank y'all for being here in the chat and wherever you're listening. Peace. More soon. Yeah.